Hello there everyone, welcome back to a brand new video. Today I'm going to talk about Peacemaker Season 2. So, Peacemaker Season 2 finale may have revealed the villain of James Gunn's Man of Tomorrow movie, and obviously why I feel the urge to talk about the final episode, because I thought the final episode was kind of okay, kind of decent. Like, obviously Season 2 of Peacemaker has been this absolutely wild ride, but the final episode left me a bit, I'm not quite sure, disappointed. I'm not quite sure. But, Peacemaker Season 2 just ended its 8 episode run on HBO Max with a major turning point in the life of John Cena's aspiring do gooder, Christopher Smith. Obviously, creator James Gunn teased that the final would lay the ground for the 2027's Man of Tomorrow movie. And Gunn seemed to have made good on that promise, with the final strongly hinting at which character will serve as the common enemy, uniting Nicholas Holt's Lex Luthor and David Cornswell's Superman. So, obviously today I'm going to talk about or break down Peacemaker Season 2 finale. Obviously, it doesn't quite gel with the rest of the DCU. Obviously, I'm also going to explore the other big revelations in this episode, like the debut of Checkmate and the planet Salvation. Obviously, let's get into it. So, everything seems to be going Chris's way in the longest moments of Full Nelson. Obviously, the last episode, he and Jennifer Holland's Emilia Harcourt finally have their big emotional breakthrough. Chris and the gang liberate a giant pile of cash and use it to open up their peacekeeping agency called Checkmate. Obviously, Checkmate is inspired by the comics. Obviously, this is a group or a team which is like obviously this agency that I think is kind of like I would say the yin to the yang of Amanda Waller's obviously Task Force X, I believe. Peacemaker is going to join this brand new Checkmate group, and obviously this was also made by the daughter of Amanda Waller, right? There we go. So Checkmate is this, I guess, group where vigilantes or heroes try to make sure that things go right. Okay, so there we go. Obviously, Checkmate. Most notable members of Checkmate are like Mr. Terrific, obviously Peacemaker too, right now, obviously, and right now also Vigilante. So that's really interesting. So there we go. Obviously, before getting into the comic book origins of Checkmate and Salvation, I should really address the elephant in the room. What's the deal with Rick Flag? Why has this character taken such a hard and sudden heel turn in Peacemaker Season 2? The thing about Grillo's character is that he was never portrayed in a particularly villainous light before now. From the start, he's been the more level-headed, rule-abiding, I think, alternative to Viola Davis and Amanda Waller. If outright calling him a hero is too much, Flag was certainly on the right side of the conflicts in the 2024's Creature Commandos. The same goes for his small role in Superman, where he was clearly distrustful of Luthor. Even starting out in Peacemaker Season 2, Flag wasn't really a villain, so much as a man grieving the death of his son. However much Flag may be using his position to carry out a personal vendetta, you can understand and empathize with him. But that empathy is mostly gone now. Flag has gone from the distrusting Luthor to becoming has gone from distrusting Luthor to obviously becoming Luthor's ally. So, is there any difference between Luthor building a prison between dimensions and Flag using the quantum unfolding chamber to dump prisoners on an alien world? Even the way Flag treats his agents in episodes 8 seems like a step too far for the character. We see him sending wave after wave of Argus troops into the quantum unfolding chamber as glorified cannon fodder, choking and flirting while his men die horrible deaths. Again, calling Flag an outright hero may be too much of a stretch, but the character had a basic humanity in the TCU that's suddenly absent at the end of Peacemaker Season 2. I really thought that, Rick Flag Sr. really took a weird right turn in the last episode. Like, I think Rick Flag Sr. is an interesting character. Obviously, he has this personal vendetta against Peacemaker for killing his son. Obviously, Rick Flag from the Suicide Squad. And obviously, in the Creature Commandos, Rick Flag Sr. was was one of the main characters. He was the good guy. But obviously, the Creature Commandos are all villains, right? But he was like the moral, I suppose, character that made sure that everyone stayed together, everyone, calmed down. And Now suddenly he's become a villain, which is quite weird. But anyway, this sudden pivot in Flack's characterization is all the more troubling because all signs point to the character taking on a bigger role in Gunn's Superman follow-up, Man of Tomorrow. For all the speculation that Brainiac is the major threat looming over the heads of Luthor and Superman, it's looking like Rick Flag Sr. too. Is the actual villain of Gunn's next movie probably going to be Rick Flag Sr.? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. It's difficult because I think Brainiac, obviously, a lot of people speculate it's Brainiac. It also could be, I don't know, another villain, right? Like Parasite or maybe Darkseid. Don't think that will happen yet. So anyway, Flag clearly has a distaste for metahumans, despite previously leading a team of them with the Creature Commandos, which is interesting. He sees them as causing more problems than solve, nothing more than the trash to be disposed of on a remote, out of the way planet. In Man of Tomorrow, Flag may decide that Luthor should be among that group. That may be what forces Luthor to align with the most hated enemy, Superman. Obviously, Superman is never one to turn down someone in need, plus he knows firsthand how dehumanizing it is to be abducted and imprisoned with no due process. Obviously, Flag may be the threat that forces Superman and Luthor to put aside their differences and fight for a common goal. We may have seen both characters banished to salvation in Man of Tomorrow, queuing up the inevitable return appearance of Cena's Peacemaker. That could also be an interesting storyline. What if Lex Luthor and Superman got dumped on a planet and they need to work together and suddenly Peacemaker is there? That could be funny. It seems that absolute power is corrupting Flag in the same way it did Waller before him. Then, yet again, it's just a little hard to swallow this abrupt pivot in characterization with Grill's character. Part of the appeal of Flag was that he wasn't Amanda Waller. Why even sideline Waller in the first place if we're just getting another person with the same temperament running Argus? Hopefully Gunn has something else in mind or something else under his sleeve for Flag that can restore him to a more morally ambiguous player in the DCU rather than an outright villain. That said, Gunn would argue that Flag was never the noble character he might have seemed in Creature Commandos and Superman. At a recent press event, Gunn noted that Flag is a deeply flawed character whose greatest sin is overestimating his own intelligence. James Gunn says, I think we saw a guy in Creature Commandos, which, when you're first watching that season, he seems like he's the good guy, but he's absolutely not. Gunn told reporters he screws everything up again and again because he thinks he's smarter than Waller, which he isn't, and he messes that up and falls for this woman, and he's kind of like, prayed by her the whole time, and that is, that's to me, obviously to James Gunn, is the fun thing about Rick Flag. He's totally imperfect. So there we go. So Checkmate, obviously seen in this latest episode, obviously in this season, Chris and the gang have formed their own peacekeeping agency called Checkmate. Checkmate is an organization with deep roots in the DC comics. Even in this version, it is a pretty significant devotion from the source material. In fact, about the only common thread there is the involvement of Saul Rodriguez, Sacha Bordeaux, and Freddy Strom as Vigilante. Checkmate was created by Paul Kuberberg and Steve Irwin and originally debuted in 1988's Action Comics number 598. So there we go. Let's see here. Okay, with Waller forming the organization as a splinter agency of Task Force X, Vigilante's nemesis Harry Stein is put in charge of the agency, with Stein opting to model its organizational structure around chess pieces. Characters serve as kings, queens, bishops, knights. That's interesting. Checkmate played a key role in the 1989 crossover The Janus Directive, but the monthly Checkmate series was eventually cancelled with the 1991's Checkmate number 33. After fading to the background of the DC universe, Checkmate roared back into the spotlight thanks to 2005's Infinite Crisis, with writer Greg Rucka spearheaded a new modernized Checkmate series in the aftermath of that crisis, one which included his creation Sacha Bordeaux as a major character. Gunn made it clear he was heavily inspired by his love of the Rucka run at the press event, saying, I've always liked Checkmate. Those Greg Rucka stories of Checkmate are just comics that I really, really love. So I always wanted to try to build Checkmate into the show somehow. And the idea of allowing Aids to really fulfill what is her sword of destiny and be the one who founds Checkmate in this universe was important to me. I also like the idea where obviously we're really using it to deal with all these different characters, which is interesting. Gunn revealed that the idea here is to give the 11th Street kids an opportunity to do good on a larger scale. Obviously, there we go. Hardcore and economists, they're worker bees. They've worked for intelligence organizations their whole lives. They're basically done what they've basically done what they said. They've broken out of a couple of times, like at the end of the Suicide Squad, but basically they're worker bees. And so I think that Og is speaking directly to our court soul at that moment, and that leads into the desire of create an organization using all of the blood money that is truly for good, and to create the organization that is going to be separated from the other institutions in the DC universe, which is the government and corporations and the Justice Gang, the typical meta-human gangs. I think the real combination of the 11th Street kids and the desires to be good. So there we go. Let's talk about Salvation Run. As for the Planet Salvation, that's also the harkens back to the some of DC's early nihilist comics. The world was introduced in 2007's The Salvation Run, which is based on a study pitch from none other than the Game of Thrones author George R.R. Martin. Damn. Though the comic itself is written by Bill Willingham and Lila Sturgis. So, let's see here. A precursor to another Crisis storyline, 2008's Final Crisis Salvation Run deals with the fallout of many DC villains like Joker, Lex Luthor, and the Flash Rogues being marooned on a distant planet dubbed Salvation. Similar to the Peacemaker series, the idea is to get rid of Earth's most problem-making meta-humans. However, Waller and Task Force X don't count on the fact that Salvation is actually a secret training ground for Darkseid's parademons, which gives Luthor et al. Access to boom tube technology. So there we go. In the case of both Checkmate and Salvation Run, DC fans shouldn't be expecting a full one-to-one adaptation of the source material. As much of James Gunn's DCU leans on the comics for inspiration, he's never been one for direct adaptations. That won't change now. So there we go. As with the comics where Salvation Run ended with the villains escaping and returning to Earth with vengeance in mind, the real importance of the Salvation situation in the DC universe may involve what happens when these characters do inevitably return. How do heroes like Superman and the Justice Gang react to what Flag has done? Is there a point where Argus goes too far in its pursuit of peace and order? So will there be a Peacemaker Season 3? Naturally, one of the biggest questions now that Peacemaker Season 2 has ended is when and where we'll see Cena's Chris Smith next. Is there going to be Season 3? Maybe, but Gunn doesn't seem too focused on an immediate future for a Peacemaker Season 3. This is about the wider DC universe and other stories in which this will play out right now. Gunn said, so that doesn't mean that there won't be. I don't want to say never, but right now, no, this is about the future of the DC universe, he says. We're expecting Cena to return in Man of Tomorrow, possibly in a more substantial role than this quick Superman cameo. Where that sequel leaves Chris may well determine when and how Gunn tackles a potential Peacemaker Season 3 or a Checkmate Season 1, but Gunn does at least seem to have plans for the alternate universe's version of Chris' brother Keith. So there we go. I have plans for Keith, Gunn said. I just haven't figured out exactly how it's all going to work out, so I have to make sure I can do it. It's hard when the interdimensional hopping stuff to make these things come together in the way I'd like. So I have what I would like to happen with Keith, but I'm not sure. I've got to make sure it work out. So there we go. Let's also not forget that there is a clear path forward for the rest of the show's cast without Chris. He may be marooned in Salvation, but Checkmate still exists. Gunn could well be planning a Checkmate spin-off series rather than a Peacemaker Season 3, as we see this fledgling organization grow into something bigger. Whatever comes next, Gunn confirmed that we will see Checkmate continue to play a key role. That's really, really interesting. So yes, at the end of the day, I think Peacemaker Season 2 was great. The final episode was a bit, was okay, was decent. But obviously, I really, really enjoyed this brand new Peacemaker series. I think the season was absolutely diabolical in every single way. And obviously, I'm a big fan of the future of James Gunn's, DC Universe. Can't wait for Man of Tomorrow in 2027. Can't wait for Supergirl, releasing next year. I'm so incredibly hyped for that one. Emilia Clarke as Supergirl is like the perfect casting, and she's just like, she looks so beautiful as Supergirl, man. Holy shit. I also can't wait for Clayface. It's a bit of a different take on like a film. I suppose it's like an R-rated horror film, and I think that's really great. It's important for like the DC universe to tell stories that aren't about flashy superheroes, but also are about realistic stuff, right? It's Clayface. Clayface is inspired obviously by the Batman animated series 2-parter episodes. So there we go, and I think that will be very, very interesting. Obviously, we also have Lanterns coming up next year too, and I'm really excited for that 1, 2. So yeah, I'm just a big fan of Garn, and I can't bloody wait to see what he'll do next with his brand new universe. So alright, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And I guess if you sticked around so long for this for this video, and obviously hopefully you enjoyed this video, here is a little 18-second clip of me trying to dance on the Peacemaker intro. I mean, I'm making a fool of myself here, but you know what, I I think it was funny to do, and I just really love that song, man. Oh Lord by Foxy Shazam. I think pretty much the only song that I re-listen to so much during during the day and during the week. So I guess Peacemaker was airing, and I was like, holy shit, this song is catchy. So I think I listened to it like 4 times a day or something. So there you go. But all right, this is all that you're going to get from me for doing that dance. So alright, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will check you later. Goodbye everyone, or shall I say Julia.
You ready for the next adventure, pal?